Breaking news, Giants fans. Per Adam Schefter, Brian Daboll has been fired as the head coach of the New York Giants. And then, as a follow up to that, Schefter said for the third straight year, the Giants are 2-8. They've blown four double digit leads and four road losses. Their prized rookie quarterback has been evaluated for four concussions. I didn't see the four before. A lot of fours in this. And their star wide receiver running back are out for the season due to knee injuries. Obviously, those knee injuries aren't Brian Daboll's fault, but as we've watched this season go week in and week out, we knew that this was coming. I honestly think I said that this probably should have happened last year and got a clean slate because Brian Daboll has had, outside of the 2022 season, which was his first season, just an absolute losing culture with not too many positives outside of that one season, which was a lot of flukes in that too. I did a video about that, so if you want to go and check that out, because I really broke down and explained why that season was a fluke, as much as I don't want to shit on when the Giants actually do well. There were a lot of holes and gaps that needed to be filled, and more specifically in that season, they got smoked by the Eagles 3 times that season. And then when you fast forward, there's just so many losses, and not all of them are on Brian Daboll, I think. But when you constantly blow fourth quarter losses, that is on you as the head coach. But there's been other things on Brian Daboll outside of the blown losses where you could pin a lot of that on the defensive coordinator. But a lot of that has also been his poor usage of just game management, player management, timeouts. The Giants have had a tremendous amount of penalties every game as well, which I think is really on the coach and for not having the discipline. But what I think Brian Daboll got a lot wrong was really with his attitude. And I think as a grown man, he acted, especially in the medical tent issue, yelling at the doctor in an unhinged manner. I think that was enough to fire him then, because you can't speak to people like that on the sidelines. It was insanely immature for someone who's supposed to be the head coach, the people manager, the main leader of the locker room and the team, to be acting in that way. It's still just, I don't know. And he, like, the way Daboll acts is, he would use this as a badge of honor and like wear it on his sleeve proudly, that he is hot-headed, that he has a temper. And it's like, dude, what are you, a fucking child? Like, no good coaches act the way Brian Daboll acted, with the yelling and the screaming. And there are moments where, sure, you should be yelling at guys. But it goes back to even Daniel Jones's first season. If you remember game 1, Brian Daboll, Titans, on the road, Daniel Jones's first start. Daniel Jones throws an interception early in that game. What does Brian Daboll do instead of trying to coach him up and make him better and say, okay, maybe it was a cover 2. We can't be throwing to the second level. Let's look to check it down. No, Brian Daboll is screaming like an absolute lunatic, not doing any coaching. And I think that was something that he just did throughout his entire career. Omega, thanks so much for joining, bro. I hope all is well. Some surprised that this was bound to happen and overdue. Yeah, I couldn't agree with you more. But I just want to finish my opening rant here on this, and I hope you're doing well, man. That his behavior was just unchecked. It was so contrary to what we've seen from a lot of more stoic Giants coaches. And, obviously Tom Coughlin did yell in Matt Dodge's face on the Deshaun Jackson punt return, but any coach would have done that. It was just Brian Daboll, I think, crossed the line several times that there's no way that people higher up in the Giants organization and even John Mara were happy with his behavior. And it was weird because when you act a certain way, that does have a trickle down effect. And I think the losing just piled up season over season, game over game. And you have to get that culture eradicated. It has to be removed. And it started by, getting rid of Daboll as the first kind of, head to hit whatever the guillotine or whatever way you want to talk about it, because the losing has to stop. And you have a talented young guy in Jackson Dart where you don't want to get him into a full season and get used to losing, because this is something that the Jets do, the Browns do. They ruin these young quarterbacks. Like, the offensive line finally isn't in the issue, but then you want to just, there's no other talent around him because you lost your star wide receiver, star running back, and they want to just run him into the ground, which I've had my issues with. And he wants to also say, this is the way I play, tough shit. Well, you have to have a coach that say you can't play like this if you want to be in the league for a long time. Obviously, we know NFL acronym or not for long, but if Jackson Dart continues on that path of, wanting to just run people over that are way bigger than him, he's not Josh Allen. He's going to get hurt. He's going to have concussions. And now, you're looking at, he's gone to the medical tent and been diagnosed or, checked for concussions 4 times already this season. How many games? It's not like that long ago he even started. So, or got his first start. So he has to, whoever they do bring in as the next head coach has to be able to protect him, but also develop him. So I think what did I say about Daboll here? I said I really didn't like the way that he spoke, or his sideline demeanor. I think had a trickle down effect, but with Daboll, not everything was on him, because they're retaining Mike Kafka, who's been elevated to interim head coach. Shane Bowen, the defensive coordinator, still also there. I think they could have just easily got rid of him. After that Broncos game, they probably should have. I think many other organizations around the league, as bad as some teams are making that change after your defense gives up 30 points in the fourth quarter to lose. It was kind of an easy decision. Obviously, everyone has been talking about that recently with the rumors of, were they going to do it? Were they not? Blah, blah, blah. I really didn't even follow it that much because it was a while ago that it actually happened and nothing happened. So I didn't really understand why everyone was talking about it now. But Daboll's gone. Shane Bowen needs to go next. Kafka, let's see what Kafka could do as the leader of men on this team, as the head football coach here, to see, is he worth keeping around? Maybe what happens if they win 4 or 5 games? Does he get considered to stay as head coach? I think they truly, though, need to clean house. John Feliciano had a funny post. He commented or tweeted, "Ew," about Mike Kafka being promoted to interim head coach. I thought it was funny, but also telling, because he was in the locker room and he doesn't give a shit about what the Giants think of him or not. He's gone. So that cracks me up. Shane Bowen's got to go. I don't understand why sometimes people, maybe older folks, are enamored with some more middle-aged people. And this is for an example for 2 of my teams, between the Giants and the Rangers. Chris Drury, the GM of the Rangers, he obviously played and was incredibly successful in the NHL. Joe Shane, I don't know when he actually played football, but he's younger and he has a demeanor to him that I think older people like John Mara like and overvalue, I think, because his success was also tied to Brian Daboll's. And this team has so many holes in it still, too. Yes, there's talent, and I think a new coach can help in that regard for sure in bringing that out. But the main thing being that, you lose your wide receiver, you lose your running back, you lose your left tackle, you lose a cornerback, and the season's over. There's so many other teams that have injuries and have probably had worse injuries than the Giants that are still fighting and are still, trying hard and still in the mix in their divisions. But the Giants just were built this way by Joe Shane as a house of cards. And he should probably go too, to be completely honest with you. I don't care if they drafted Jackson Dart. The no kicker situation that they found themselves in for the last 2 years, I think has been enough for me. They also extended Jamie Gillen, who his hands are all over the loss to the Bears. He had 2 penalties on kickoffs and then also punting one out of bounds for the 20-yarder. I knew even if he kicked it 80 yards, I said it in the video, the Bears are still going down the field and scoring a touchdown. We all know that. But yeah, the way that they built this team, Darius Slayton, he's got to want to re-sign Wandell, John Runyon Jr., Daboll, Holland, these guys. There was a lot of swings and misses, especially in the draft department, where you need your guys that you draft to be successful, like Hyatt, like Neal, like these guys that have not done anything, and he whiffed in so many drafts. What was it, 2023 draft? Deontay Banks, John Michael, Jalen Hyatt. And these aren't guys that they're whiffing on. These are guys that they traded up to get. So I think his future with the organization should also be tied to Brian Daboll's, and should probably find himself, on the unemployment line as well. I don't care about them trading up for Jackson Dart because they didn't do enough to build around him. And that's what the next person's job is going to be. Building around Jackson Dart, getting enough key pieces in place to elevate him as much as possible when you haven't had to pay him yet. Because if Jackson Dart puts together seasons where he can, what his potential is, he's going to get paid a lot of money, and then that takes away from building the rest of the team. So with that being said, Brian Daboll's been fired. That is the end of this live show. And if you joined in for a few, really appreciate it. I'm looking forward to seeing. I know the rest of the season is kind of a joke with however long Dart's going to be out. I can't watch Russell Wilson play football anymore. We've seen it. It doesn't look good. It doesn't enthuse anyone at this point. But I think going into 2026, which just sounds insane to be talking about before Thanksgiving, but this is how bad it is, and this is why Brian Daboll had to be fired. But going into 2026, having a new head coach, new offensive coordinator, new defensive coordinator, potentially a new GM, that gets me back to optimistic, Bob. Who that is, I don't know. But there's a lot riding on who that next person is to right the ship and figure it out. Thanks for watching.